Afternoon, guys. It's Simon at Pulse Cinemas, although you do know that because you are tuned into this and it's been sent to you directly. So what we're going to be doing is a wicked webinar with two of the titans at Anthem. So we have Blake, who's product manager, and Kyle, who's training manager, and they're going to take us through the new MRX and AVM range. Now, there's going to be questions about kind of setup and an overview of the products, differences between the old and the new, and some of the cool things, key setup, things to know about, just general kind of helpful information for you as a dealer when you're on site installing, let's face it, the best AVR in the world. So let's bring them in, guys. How are you? Are you all good?
Doing great. Thank you for having us, Simon, and good afternoon, everybody.
Thanks for coming, guys. Thanks for coming. So I'll introduce you a little bit more now. So this is Kyle, who is the training manager for Anthem and Paradigm, and in terms of brain capacity is a lot bigger than mine. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Kyle.
Yeah, so thanks for having us, everybody. And, my name's Kyle Del Nero. I'm the North American training manager for Paradigm and Anthem. One of the things that we're, of course, going to be talking about today is the new MRX series receivers and AVM70 processor. We're really excited to bring this product to the market. It's a phenomenal performance product line that your clients can really enjoy in their home theaters and their home stereo systems. So as we go through the new MRX series receivers and new AVM70 processor today, we're going to point out some of our best tips and tricks so you can install these out in the field, have a smooth calibration process with our Genesis. Your clients can start enjoying them as soon as possible.
Tell you what I love about Kyle is not only does he know everything, but he's got one of those epic voices. Like, I think that's the main reason why you were hired as the training manager, is your voice is like the introduction of a film. It's like Anthem, MRX, boom. I love it. I absolutely love it. So you're joined by a very close friend of yours, obviously not in the same place geographically, but his name is Blake. And you are the product manager, aren't you, for Anthem?
Yeah. So my name is Blake Alty, and I'm the product manager for Paradigm and Anthem. Been with the company for about 8 years. I'm a bit further from Kyle, out here in the factory, just outside of Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And very excited to give everybody here as many tips and tricks as we can to get them ready to install some Anthem, MRX, and AVM receivers and processors.
So when we first met, Blake, you came over to the UK and we did this big kind of Anthem and Paradigm training day at Pulse. We invited dealers and it was a really successful event. And I still remember, I've got a video of you, because you had to leave, I think, quite earlier than everyone else. So you had to get to a flight in Heathrow and you were running short of time because we'd exhausted you for the day. And I remember you coming out into the reception area and everyone giving you a massive round of applause, and this sheer look of like panic on your face as you were walking through. It was brilliant.
I actually remember that like it was yesterday. I was in a serious rush to get out of there.
It was brilliant.
I didn't have my faculties about me. I was just kind of running around trying to figure out how to get out of there. And then I did get, it was like I saw a ghost. Just about, there was probably about 30 people or so there.
But the thing was, that was genuine gratitude for what you did, because you came in and you just boshed it and you trained. And I have to say, it's one of the training sessions that I've remembered the most. Like I've done the tours at ISE and things, and all of the knowledge that I've gained from you two guys has really resonated with me, and I've been able to express it back to the dealers, and that's why I think it's been such a successful journey together. And also the products, the way in which obviously we're going to go through in a minute, the way that you scale things as a brand, it's quite obvious. It's nice. It's a nice upgrade path. There's no kind of like odd anomalies somewhere random that you have to kind of explain that if the wind is blowing on a Tuesday you can't do this or that or the other. It's nice and gradual as it goes up, which I really, really love. So let's start, I suppose, with kind of an overview of the new series. So Kyle, give us a kind of a breakdown of the new series for the guys out there that are obviously maybe interested in Anthem but haven't sort of specifically looked at the new range in its entirety.
Of course, and we have a phenomenal range available with 3 receiver models and the AVM70 processor. So starting with the MRX X20 series that we discontinued in 2020 and went to the new X40 AVM70 product, we had a phenomenal amplifier design that we've built off of with the outgoing X20 series platform and AVM60 for the new X40 AVM70 models. So when you listen to an Anthem receiver, when you listen to an Anthem processor preamplifier. It's all about performance first. We love performance audio, and we want to make sure that your system is performing at maximum capabilities, not only with the preprocessor and the receivers, but also, of course, with our great power amplifiers that you can add to the system to really power even the most demanding loudspeakers out in the market. So when you look at the model lineup, having the MRX 540 as our entry-level option in the receivers, it gives you a ton of power and it gives you great processing capability for even the most advanced object-based surround sound systems. And when you continually scale up to the MRX 740, the MRX 1140, and eventually the AV separates with the AVM 70 and our new MCA Gen 2 series amplifiers, all the way up to the latest and greatest DTSX, Dolby Atmos systems up to 15-channel support, you're going to find something that fits your needs. From a 2-channel stereo system with a television in the middle, all the way up to the most immersive surround sound theater that you can spec one of our products into. And what I think most people will enjoy about the Anthem product line is we're not only giving you great power with the new receivers, great processing capability, and a lot of system design flexibility, but of course we also give you Anthem room correction. And Anthem room correction is one of the most important parts of not only the Anthem brand, but also the Paradigm brand, where we can really use advanced software that's designed in-house so that we can maximize the performance of your system in any room or any space in your home. So when you look at the new model lineup, having 3 different receiver models to choose from and the world of AV separates, when you really want to maximize the client's performance, I think you're going to find something that's compelling for your system design and your budget. And as you continually scale up the product line, you're going to find more and more features built into each model. One of the things that Blake and I always love talking about is choosing the right product for the application that you're going to be designing with that. And when we look at the new MRX 540, it's a perfect example of giving you not only flexibility at initial design and installation, but as your client continues to scale up. So one of the biggest feature upgrades that we've made from the outgoing MRX 520 to the new MRX 540 is we have 7-channel processing capability on board. So not only are you getting 5 channels of great power amplification from the MRX 540 receiver, but if you'd like to add an additional pair of height channels for an Atmos or object-based surround sound format system like DTSX, you have the capability to do so now. We also give you the capability of taking some of the advanced technologies used in our new DSP platform, like amplifier matrixing, to add better amplification on the front end of that system and use the additional powers of amplifier channels that you have on board to power things like height channel positions. If it's a Zone 2 capable model like the MRX 740 and the MRX 1140, you can reassign those unused channels of power to Zone 2 outputs. So realistically, from a 5-channel system, scaling all the way up to a 15-channel solution with the MRX 1140 within the receiver lineup, you have a lot of flexibility, you have a lot of options. Now,
Can I just say as well, Carl, sorry to stop you there, but that is a really, and I think Blake, you'll agree with this, that is a really big thing. Being able to reassign channels. There's a difference between let's face it, the 20 and the 40 series. There's been times in the past where I've specified a system and a customer's wanted to put in, say, front wise, but not quite had the budget to go to a product at this kind of price scale. But then obviously the Anthem not offering it in the past, now this meant that we can really create some extremely immersive setups with really powerful front ends and easily reassign channels and utilize the amplified channels. It's just big news for us. We were able to really sort of, like you say, maximize on budget and performance in kind of one thing. It's brilliant.
Well, that's one of our big focuses at Anthem when it comes to the receivers, is making them as flexible as possible. We started with the virtual inputs originally to make it so you could really have any setup you wanted to without being limited by how we made it. And then the natural outgrowth of that was definitely the assignable channels. So not only can you map any input you want and reuse and different HDMIs and mix and match different audio inputs to go with them, but now you can actually mix and match the amplifier channels and how you set that up in your room, like you said, to make it easier for you to get one of these into your house and lower the barriers for people to be able to use them in their specific individual setups.
Definitely, because I mean, I've always kind of used an analogy which is essentially like with the Anthem range now specifically, having that flexibility, having that level of processing capability, what you're able to do essentially is deliver what I would call the Mustang of the immersive cinema setup. I mean, you can deliver extremely amazing high performance audio, but with a price point that, yes, let's face it, it is higher than the kind of entry level Japanese stuff that we see going out there, but it's affordable to a lot more people, and you're giving them that immersive experience. It's almost taking that elitism out of that kind of higher rendering channel count systems and bringing them more into the real world, which is perfect timing, especially with the whole pandemic and people that want to be in their homes and want to utilize some of their budget. They've got a product offering now that they can deliver the highest level performance at a really good price point.
That's one thing we're well known for, our performance to value ratio, and you'll see that across the entire lineup. You know, talking about the entire platform as a whole from an upgrade standpoint compared to the 20 series, we've talked about the improvements on the MRX 540, not only offering the additional processing capability, but we've also offered Wi-Fi connectivity on all models at this point. So again, going back to install, setup, ease of use, we have multiple options now across the receiver lineup and on the AVM70 processor to connect to the internet, so that way you can not only enjoy all of our great new features like our new autonomous platform for streaming, being able to use Google Chromecast audio, Apple AirPlay 2, and Bluetooth out of the box. But we've also added a really nice feature for all of our installers and our consumers out in the field, which is the automatic updates over the air. So for the first time on an Anthem receiver and processor, you don't have to use a USB drive, download the update from our website. Once it's been connected to the network, it's going to take the automatic updates that we'll send out occasionally, and you have the ability to opt into auto updates for all of our updates, unlocking new features as they become available. So it really just makes installation and ease of use over time a breeze on the new MRX X40 and AVM70.
Awesome. So obviously you talked about the 540, we then have the 740 in terms of an upgrade. Obviously that means obviously more channels of amplification, but it also means more capabilities in terms of processing, doesn't it?
That's correct, and you can scale up. So again, just like on the MRX 540 where you can scale up to a 7-channel system, on the MRX 740 you can scale up to an 11.2 system. So you have the processing capability on board, again, for all the latest Atmos or DTSX object-based surround sound systems. So there's a lot of flexibility in design and application there on the MRX 740. Another really nice feature on the MRX 740 and on the 1140 and AVM70 is the ability to use Zone 2. Of course, we know many clients are going to use a powered Zone 2 output on their receiver to power an additional zone of audio. Maybe it's their outdoor system, a secondary room in the house where they spend a lot of time listening. But we wanted to add even more functionality and flexibility with the new MRX X40 series receivers and the AVM70 processor, and that's why we have an independent Zone 2 HDMI output, which allows you to actually send audio and video to a secondary display. So like here in my house in Central Florida, where my main zone is adjacent to my patio area, where I spend a lot of time listening to music, watching my favorite basketball team, watching my favorite football games in the fall, I can now send audio and video to that second panel. And of course, if I have an MDX distribution amplifier, I can send my entire audio, distributed audio from my MRX series receiver or my AVM70 processor with that Zone 2 output, so I can really wake up my loudspeakers, use Anthem room correction in those secondary zones with the new MDX distribution amplifier to maximize my experience.
I am sold. I mean, I loved it. I love the little smile you got there with the MDX, and that's the thing, is like you can see the confidence in when you're talking, because you really have covered all bases. You are able to provide that experience to a customer, and again, like I say, easily scale things. I mean, I use an MDX8 at home, and I've got it with the monitor. I mean, I've only got little monitor 6000F floor standards. I mean, like entry-level floor standards. I've got a little outdoor speaker system, but yeah, it just works. It just works. I mean, I'm a salesperson. I'm not technical. Well, I am technical. I understand what I'm talking about. But I set it up. It's just the interface. Everything about the process is user-friendly, which is what's really cool.
I 100% agree, and I'm glad you brought up the interface. One of the biggest upgrades for installers when they're setting up the product out in the field is that we have a new web user interface where you can set up the product and you have some light controls that you can use for the main zone and the secondary zone if it's a second zone capable model like the MRX 740, the 1140, and the AVM 70. So if you haven't used the new web user interface, it's something that we actually adapted from the MDX platform for the new MRX and AVM series products, so you can quickly set up the product, go in and make sure you have all of your custom settings. As Blake mentioned earlier, one of the things that we're most well known for is the ability to use virtual inputs. So you can quickly build all of your virtual inputs all the way up to 30 individual virtual inputs in 4 separate profiles. So there's so much system design flexibility and installation with the web user interface that you really can dial it in specifically for your client's needs. And what I love most about it, I don't have any install experience out in the field over the past 10 years, but I do know from talking to all of our great installers that work for our dealer partners out in the field that makes it a breeze compared to previous years where you had to connect a small display to one of the HDMI outputs when your rack's located completely across the side of the other side of the house or even inside of a basement. And now you have the ability to log right in with your laptop, your tablet, or your cell phone once you place that unit on the network and fully set up the new MRX receiver or AVM 70 processor with the web user interface.
It's awesome. And I think with the new 1140 having the 15.2 processing, having kind of a user-friendly interface when setting up a system like that, when you're going quite dramatically from like the usual 7.2.4 setups to a higher channel count system, having that easy to use interface for an integrator on site who's setting up a system really kind of helps them in that respect.
I completely agree. Blake, what else do you love about the web user interface?
The web user interface, the key points for me is like, as you had mentioned, was to use it from anywhere, to be able to sit down at a table and set up your unit rather than sitting in front of the unit itself. Just the ability to see everything in one big view as well. It's just the simplicity of using a computer over the front panel or a TV, and it just makes life a whole lot simpler when you're setting up things on a computer rather than setting it up on the unit itself.
Sorry, Blake, but I think one of the things that you've nailed with the web user interface, and you just mentioned it about being able to set it up on a table, is that there's a lot more clients that are becoming more interested in the setup of their system. So as an integrator, having them sat with you at the island in their kitchen while you're setting up it becomes an experience, doesn't it?
Almost definitely. It's a lot more intuitive, I think, than using a front panel display or an on-screen display to set things up. Oftentimes those are quite unique, and I think we've done a very good job with ours over the years. And we still do have ours available on the front panel of the unit itself. When you do need to, in a pinch, set something up on the unit, it is there available for you without needing a separate display to plug in to do it. If it's in something like a rack, it's much easier from the front panel. But for an end user to sit alongside or for them to go through with and be explained how it all is being set up, it's a lot more intuitive and easy to understand now, I think, when you get to see it in that frame on the computer screen. So those are definitely the benefits for me.
I think it also shows a level of professionalism.
Yeah.
When installers around the client's home, when they sit down with their laptop, they go in, they set up the product with the web user interface. The client sees that, and they realize that, one, these products are extremely advanced from a processing and a performance standpoint. And they're also familiar with that because when they bring their car in for service, the first thing they see when they bring in their Mercedes, their BMW, their Acura, is the technician pull out a laptop.
Yeah.
That's what everyone has been familiar with over the past few years as all the products around us grow with technology. So I think it's a level of professionalism that our dealers can show our customers and really separates our brand because we are the integrator's choice.
Definitely. So Kyle, we've talked about 540 with 5 channels amplified, 7 channels processed, 740, 11 channels processed, 7 channels amplified. 1140, obviously 11 amplifier channels and 15.2 processing, which is just awesome. Tell us a little bit about the processors that we've got available to us now. So we have the AVM70 and we have the AVM90.
Well, one additional feature on the 1140 that we'll talk about as well with the AVM70. The 1140 has independent subwoofer outputs. That's one of the big upgrade features when you go from the MRX 740 and the MRX 540 into the MRX 1140, beyond the number of amplified channels and processing capability. That's something that's really cool to the Anthem brand that we've just introduced with the new MRX series receivers and the AVM70 processor. So one of the biggest things that will do for your client is it will give you better bass management. And of course, one thing that Anthem is extremely well known for is Anthem room correction, which really helps to manage bass response regardless of the environment. Well, we're taking that to the next level with the MRX 1140 and the AVM70, giving you dual independent subwoofer outputs. So you will eventually have the capability of having independent distance, independent Anthem room correction on each subwoofer in the system, and automatic phase and polarity adjustments via a future firmware update. That's something our engineers are hard at work on today, so that we can bring you the best bass response in your room, up to 2 independent subwoofers on the MRX 1140 and on the AVM70. Eventually, when we get to the AVM90 later this fall into early next year, we will have the capability of doing up to 4 independent subwoofers on the AVM90.
That is amazing. It's just, this is what I'm saying about, and when you look at the value, Scott told me this. No, there is no value in the absence of performance.
Yeah,
yes,
that's correct.
So that's the thing.
That's our favorite tagline from our co-founder Scott Bagby.
Yeah,
there's a big difference between being cheap and having a good value.
Exactly.
You can be less expensive and not offer anything, but all you are then is less expensive. But if you can offer a good performance to value, performance to cost relationship, then Definitely. You have a good value. And that's what we aim to provide. There's one more thing, though, I will say before, Kyle, you go on to the processors. That one thing that the 1140 as well shares in common with the processors is a toroidal transformer.
Yes.
Audiophile grade transformer, lower noise, low flux transformer that we've consistently through the years put into our top of the line receiver as well as our processors. So that is one more common thing as you go into those processors.
Awesome.
Definitely, and gives you a lower noise floor. Of course, on the MRX 1140, where we have 11 channels of power on board, it's going to deliver power more effectively to your loudspeakers in the system.
Now that's a value proposition. Just quickly, sorry, before we go through to the processors, there's one bit that I've been burning to talk about, and that is who designed the microphone for the new. It looks like something out of Men in Black. It's awesome. And I know, but it is like when you hold it, it feels quality, and you just think you get this in every single one that you buy. I love it. It looks like you're going to erase people's memory with it. It's brilliant.
Well, yeah, that was not exactly something we were going for, but we did design that here. But there's a lot more to it than just the looks of that new microphone.
Of course, yeah.
If we can jump onto that real quick, what we're doing right now is we have that. It's a MEM style microphone, so it's a micro electromechanical system, which is always a mouthful to say. But essentially, what happens is they're much more consistent microphones across batches. So rather than having to individually calibrate the microphones now, what we do is we have them calibrated as a group, and they're very, very accurate. So you no longer need to get a calibration file for your specific microphone. But in addition to that, these capture much higher frequencies as well. We used to only really be reliable up to 5 kilohertz. But with these new microphones and the directionality of higher frequencies, we have a sticker on the front of it that has a dot that says point this towards the front of the room. So they can actually accurately capture frequencies above 5 kilohertz now with these new microphones, as long as they're placed properly with the dot pointing towards the front of the room. So they don't just look a lot cooler, they actually perform a lot better as well.
That is awesome. And I understand as well you can use the, because let's face it, integrators and me, we're all the same, we lose things. That disaster scenario, I need to calibrate this client system, who's thrown away the box, the microphone was in the box. You can use the older generation microphones with the new products as well, can't you?
Yes, you can. Yeah, not a problem at all. They're completely interchangeable. Anthem Room Correction will recognize the microphone you have connected, and it'll let you know when you click on it. And it won't make the mistake of not asking you for a calibration file if one is required, or vice versa. So that's not a problem at all.
Very cool. Very cool indeed. Sorry, Carl, we've taken you off of your flow. Let's talk processors then.
Yeah, let's talk about the processor, the AVM70. And as Blake mentioned earlier, we're all about high performance to value ratio. In my experience in the industry, one of the highest performance to value ratios is AV separates. As technology evolves, when you start with a great separate solution with a really nice processor on the front end of the system and great amplifiers powering your loudspeakers, not only do you have a phenomenal system out of the gate, but you also have a natural upgrade path for your client at a later time. So as video formats and audio formats evolve over the next 5, 10, 15 years, in many cases you'll find our amplifiers still powering those same systems. Just anecdotally speaking, I can tell you some of my experience when we launched the AVM70 and announced the AVM90. We have clients that have had our D2V processors out in the field for the past 10 plus years that are now starting that upgrade process on the front end of their system with either a new AVM70 or a new AVM90. And they're retaining their powerful statement series amplifiers, MCA Gen 1 and Gen 2 amplifiers that are already out in the world powering some of the most powerful home theater and stereo systems. So it's a really nice upgrade path for your client when you can take them from an all-in-one receiver into a separate solution with a great AVM70, eventually the AVM90 processor, our new MCA Gen 2 amplifiers, or of course mix and match between the MCA series, the P series, our M1, and our STR series power amplifier solution based on their performance needs and application needs. So when you look at the AVM70, all of the great new features we talked about, the new autonomous streaming platform with Google Chromecast audio, Apple AirPlay 2, Bluetooth capabilities on board, you really have a lot of the same hardware features that you'll find on the receivers, but we're upgrading the performance because now we have a separate component for our processing, our preamplification, our volume control, and our input selection, and separate power amplifiers with even more robust power from an MCA Gen 2 or any of our great power amplifiers to power their loudspeakers. Another nice upgrade feature when you start taking them into the world of separate processing is we've really designed these so that you can install a system from a 2-channel stereo system like what I have here in my home, all the way up to a 15-channel solution with the AVM70. Just like the MRX 1140, where we have that large Toyota power supply to keep the noise floor as low as possible, you can scale up to a Dolby Atmos system, DTSX object-based surround sound system, and mix and match between any of those formats to give your customer the most immersive surround sound environment in their home. Another nice upgrade feature on the AVM70 as you step up from the MRX 1140 is we now have a phono stage on the AVM70 for the first time. So if your client has a moving magnet turntable, they have the ability to plug right into our moving magnet phono stage and listen to their favorite albums. Just like me at home, I know many customers are not only using these for multi-channel surround sound environments, but also for a great stereo system with a video display right in the middle. And that's why I really see a lot of value in that moving magnet phono stage, because as a stereo enthusiast, I get to listen to all of my favorite digital sources and all of my favorite analog sources without the need for a separate phono stage box in the system.
I agree, and I actually get asked about that quite a lot. We obviously work with different integrators that have different kind of focuses in terms of their client base, and we do get approached by a lot more kind of hi-fi retailers asking about those kind of phono stage setups and things, because it is becoming more of a widely accepted way of setting up a system in that respect. So yeah, having that upgrade path is really useful and a major reason to go up to an AVM70 from that perspective. So,
and of course, the biggest upgrade factor is the audio performance. And we're improving the audio performance not only by having a separate solution with a separate preamplifier processor and amplifier, but also the internal components of the AVM70 are upgraded for audio performance as well. So detail, clarity, spatial awareness, immersiveness in the surround sound environment are all going to improve when you use the AVM70 compared to the MRX receiver lineup.
Brilliant. And I think obviously Anthem, Paradigm owns Anthem. What's apparent within your offerings is that the actual key performance message, let's say, for a product, so let's take like a P5 for example speaker. You've got your active ridge technology, you've got your reduced edge diffraction, and you've got your perforated phase alignment. All of the key technologies you developed in those speaker ranges to deliver the best possible performance for the customer. Now, as an upgrade path, let's face it, how do you go necessarily from a P5 to an E5? Well, they're both going to do an incredible job. An 1140 is going to do an incredible job, an AVM 70 is going to do an incredible job. But having, like you say, the quality of components, for example, the differences in cone, all of that kind of stuff with the speakers, you can get the same level of performance, but the value add in the quality of components that goes into it to enhance the performance of the overall range. And I think that's really nice in terms of it's not like, well, this product isn't as good as this product. They're both blimmin' amazing, but this is going to give you this because it has better quality components within it. It's a nice upgrade path.
Definitely.
So, AVM 90 then, obviously coming later on, unless you have any more to say about the AVM 70, sorry.
Don't really have anything additional to add to the AVM 70 conversation. I would say for the time being, we should wait on the AVM 90 specific details.
Ooh, intriguing. I like it. The element of suspense. See, it's the epic voice, Blake. I can see you laughing. It's the epic voice. It just builds that suspense. I love it.
It definitely does a good job of it, but it's definitely something we should wait on.
Brilliant. So, you've taken us through this summer, AVM 90. So, we've talked about the product range. We've got a nice sort of overview of everything, but let's give some examples. Let's spend a little bit of time on this, not a massive amount, but let's give some examples of kind of setups where it would be obviously beneficial to specify certain products within that scenario from that perspective, in your experience, obviously.
Of course. I'm a huge believer in top-down selling strategy. So always start with the world of AV separates with the AVM70 and MCA Gen 2 amplifiers, STR amplifier, M1 P series based on their needs. If you can't quite stretch the client into the budget for AV separates, you have a great step-down solution based on the needs of your system with the MRX series platform. So as an example, if I'm working with a client that's in a 5-channel system and they can't quite stretch to the world of AV separates with the AVM70 and MCA Gen 2 series amplifiers as the example here, I know I have multiple options that I can step down to, including, of course, the MRX 540, which is our 5-channel solution. And in the event that client's never going to exceed 5 channels, in many cases, you may offer a 540 as the go-to solution in this case. But I would recommend really taking advantage of better amplification and some more system design flexibility for the future by offering the MRX 740. Because not only do we have more robust amplification for the main 5 channels in the system, going from 100 watts per channel to 140 watts per channel, but you also have the flexibility now with our new amplifier matrixing technology to take those unused channels of amplification and bi-amp the front loudspeakers in the system, giving you even more power delivery to even the most demanding loudspeakers you'll find out in the market. So I see that as a great solution for your 5-channel clients. Try to start them off with AV separates, work your way through the offerings within the MRX series receiver lineup to find them the best possible situation, either allowing for future growth if they want to scale up to a 7-channel, 11-channel, or 15-channel solution at a later date by offering from the 540 all the way up to the 1140, or from a performance to value application standpoint, get them into a solution where they can maximize the performance that they have available with the amount of channels in their home, even if they're never going to exceed that 5-channel solution. Another great piece of information that we like to give our dealers when they're designing a system with the new Anthem product line is make sure that you offer a Zone 2 capable model when it's needed in the system. The MRX 540 is a phenomenal receiver, but it's meant for one zone. So if you need to scale up and go to a second zone solution, either at the time of installation and setup, or moving forward, you know you're going to add that second video zone at a later date, make sure to spec in the MRX 740, the 1140, or the AVM 70, because that'll be a key piece that you'll need from a functionality standpoint. Everything else within the lineup, as you want to step up, is all about stepping up in performance. Once you go above the channels in the system and the performance associated with that particular product. So when we're talking about taking someone from an MRX 540 to a 740, 1140 AVM 70, once you get beyond the functionality with Zone 2 capabilities, amount of channels that'll be based in the system or upgraded to at a later time, it's all about offering better and better performance. So even when you have a client that starts in the world of an MRX 740 and they want to scale up to an MRX 1140, it may not be because they want to add additional channels or have a plan to add additional channels at a later time, but again, you can increase the performance of the system by offering the independent subwoofer outputs. So when you have a client that you know is going to have 2 subwoofers in the system and they really want to maximize their experience, that's where I would offer a 7-channel client an MRX 1140, because I know I have the power and the processing that's needed for the system, but I can also add independent subwoofer adjustments with the MRX 1140 having dual independent subwoofer outputs. Now, as you continue to scale up, it really becomes about audio performance when you get into the world of AV separates. I've got a client that's right on the edge in their budget of buying an MRX 1140 to an AVM 70. I really talk about the audio performance, again, focusing on the internal upgrades that are made to give them better spatial awareness, better clarity, better detail, and overall a more immersive system, from a 2-channel stereo system all the way up to a 15-channel object-based surround sound system. And also some of those key technology upgrades that we've talked about. Having the Zone 2 functionality on board. Having the ability to scale up not only with the speakers that they're going to be offering in the system, but also offering better amplification. So if I have a client who's a real 2-channel enthusiast that wants to use this as a multi-room system, I have the capability of not only providing them a great multi-channel environment, but with things like the STR power amplifier, you can really upgrade their stereo performance by loading in that stereo amplifier to power the main speakers in the system, and then mixing and matching between all of our great amplifier solutions based on their performance needs.
Well, that is concise. I love it. I just love how you know all of this. It's just, I've been one of those people in life that just, I retain information, but you get it big. I mean, you retain information. That is awesome.
I'm sure Blake has something that he could add to that as well.
Oh, Blake.
Oh, you're on mute.
No.
I love it. The amount of times that I think you're on mute has been said since the start of the pandemic. I think it's good.
Honestly, I don't have much to add there. I think Kyle pretty much hit everything. I just to echo his thoughts on that of going with processors first. One of the beautiful things is that when you have things in different pieces, essentially modular, it's very easy to upgrade parts as well. So if a customer starts with let's say an AVM 70 and some amplification, and later decides they want to upgrade that amplification, you don't need to, you could sell off that amplification and get better stuff. Unlike a receiver, where you can still use pre-outs on our receivers, but you don't have the option of XLR that you could go to a separated power amplifier, and you can't sell that amplification off to help upgrade to something else. So keeping yourself open for as much flexibility as possible from the beginning is the best way to keep yourself set up for the future, so you can keep expanding and building on your system. Because one thing I've learned from being in the audio industry is no one's ever satisfied. You always want to keep going up and up and up. And setting yourself up for that is you're going to be happy in the future that you did that.
I think you're so correct there, guys, because when we were with each other, Blake, in Munich at the high-end show, I mean, that show is just, it's full of guys and girls walking around, and they are aimlessly searching for that perfect sound. Now, let's face it, that perfect sound probably will never exist because it will move all of the time. But future-proofing the upgrade path for the client is so important, because we are in a world that changes. We are in a marketing world where the guy comes out at the top floor of the skyscraper and shouts down to the world, "We need 4K!" And everyone goes, "Oh, let's do 4K." And then the world catches up 5 years later. So I think it's so important to kind of think end in mind, think possible eventuality, listen to the client as well. When you're specifying a product like this, it's not just about selling a box into a rack to make some noise in their cinema. It's about understanding their lifestyle, how they're going to use the product, how it's going to, like what you're talking about there, Kyle, with your patio, and how you like sitting out there and watching the football, and getting to know the client's own personality is as important as knowing what speakers you're going to be putting with this amplifier, because it's all about that all-encompassing experience for the client. And if you can nail it from a technology perspective and from a feature set that's been put in front of the client by listening to how their lifestyle goes, that's a scenario and an example I would use in terms of how to sort of essentially sell this product to an end user in that perspective. So we're talking about upgrade paths, upgrade features, understanding kind of end in mind where that client could possibly go in the future. Now, I know that there is some more kind of hardware-based upgrades that are coming in the future, talking about HDMI 2.1 and so on and so forth. 8K is on the horizon. And I know what I love about you guys is that you've, in my opinion, done it the right way round. So give us a little bit of an insight into that, Kyle.
Of course. So when we launched these products, we wanted to make sure we had a stable operating environment for the latest and greatest 4K capable sources with 4K 60Hz HDR Dolby Vision HLG functionality out of the box, so that way you're stable watching your favorite content in today's environment and world. One of the things that will be changing over the next year is we're seeing the introduction of 8K capable sources with more HDMI functionality, specifically in the world of advanced video games with the PlayStation 5 release and the Xbox X release. So we have had multiple clients reach out to us here at Paradigm and Anthem asking us what the future of our product line looks like. And one of the things that we always love to do when we introduce a new MRX series receiver line, an AVM processor line, is ensure that the hardware is robust so we can carry forward in the future, not only with software upgrades as we have new features that will unlock, but also in this case, a modular HDMI board. So one of the things that we decided when we launched new MRX X40 series receivers, the AVM70 processor, is to make sure that we have an upgrade path for when HDMI 2.1 8K capable source devices are on the market, to give us as much functionality as possible in a stable operating system. So one thing that you'll notice is we have an HDMI 8K upgrade path for all models within the lineup, from the MRX 540 all the way to the AVM70. Now, we don't have any additional details about the cost of that upgrade or the availability and time frame for the upgrade, but know that these products are all built with that upgrade path in mind. So when we get to a stable board with HDMI 2.1 8K capabilities, to really unlock all of those great features like 8K resolution, advanced HDR, auto low latency mode, and variable refresh rate, we'll be able to offer that to consumers that would like to upgrade. Now, in the event that they don't want to upgrade to the HDMI 2.1 board, of course, their unit is going to continue to look and sound great out in the field moving forward.
I think that's a really important point, Kyle, is that it's good that you're offering that upgrade path to the people that want it. I think you're not just forcing it upon people and having to get it in there to get on the spec sheet, because we've all seen the sort of horror stories of things that have gone wrong with that, and downtime for customers, and their PS5's not working and all these kind of things. It's kind of a case of do it when it's right. Don't run before you can walk. Get the systems designed correctly to be implemented at the right time to deliver it for the right customer. And I think that's a really, really key thing in terms of the development of this range. So we've talked about the range, we've talked about each of their components, sort of scenarios in which that we can involve them in, how to sort of sell it, I suppose, in a way, in terms of a technical side of things for the customer. But once it's sold, once the customer's standing over the integrator's shoulder on site and watching the box get delivered, and what for your kind of side of things, what's your best practice? What's the first thing that should be done when you open that box on site and the customer's install begins?
So the first thing that I would do in that case is I would open the box and make sure that all the necessary parts are inside of the box. Make sure you have your remote, make sure you have your power cord, make sure you have your ARC kit, make sure you have the model of receiver or processor that you've ordered, so you can ensure that you have a smooth installation and setup process. Now, once you've verified that all the necessary components are inside of the box, our best recommendation is to look for the Quick Start Guide. The Quick Start Guide is included in every single box, and it's kind of the lifeline for you during the installation and setup process to ensure that you physically connect all of your components, all of your speakers or amplifiers appropriately, and so you can go through the setup process to put the unit onto the network, whether you're using a hardwired Ethernet connection or using our wireless setup with the Google Home Setup application. Now, once you verify that you have your Quick Start Guide, our recommendation is to immediately plug in AC power and connect it to the network. Before you make any additional connections, I would make sure that you've plugged it into power and you've gotten the unit onto the network, either using the hardwired Ethernet, or if you're not using the hardwired Ethernet connection, using the wireless antennas so you can set up the unit on your Wi-Fi network or your client's Wi-Fi network. Now, my recommendation for all of our installers and dealers out in the field that have a shop that they can work within before taking the unit out to the client site is, if your client's okay with it, go ahead and start this process in your shop. That way you have full control over the initial installation of our firmware update once you get the unit plugged in and on your network. If you don't have that option, you would follow these same steps when you're out in the field: plugging in power, getting it connected to the network. Now, one of the questions that we commonly get is, do I need to include the wireless antennas on the unit if I'm not going to be using the wireless connection for internet? 100%. You want to make sure you include that in your installation process, regardless of using the hardwired Ethernet or the wireless setup feature, because not only will those antennas receive wireless internet connectivity, but it's also our Bluetooth antenna. So we want to make sure, if the client's going to be using Bluetooth, that we install those wireless antennas on the back of every single model. Now, once you've got it plugged in, you've got it set up on the network, either following the easy steps with the Google Home Setup app or the plugged in hardwired Ethernet connection, the first thing you'll want to do is either find the automatic update when it's plugged in and put onto the network. It will more than likely populate on the front panel display, showing you that an update's available, and you'll want to, of course, move forward with that update. That will get you on the latest version of firmware so that we are in a stable operating environment and you can use all of our new features that we've unlocked since the launch of this product back in February. If for some reason it doesn't automatically find that update once it's connected to the network, don't worry. Just go in and check for the update. When you go under the stored load update section, you're going to find the ability to check for the update once it's connected to the network and powered on, so you can go through that same process of installing our latest firmware update on the unit. Now, of course, this really brings up the question of, should I use the web user interface or should I use the front panel display? It's totally up to the installer and what they're comfortable with. We have the ability to use either or. So once the unit is on the network, you can find the associated IP address, so we can go through this process navigating through our menu system with the web user interface. My favorite method to find that IP address for the unit is either using the front panel display and going into the network settings to find the IP address, or if you already have ArcGenesis installed on your computer, you can open up ArcGenesis. On that same network, you can hover over your device list so you can find the IP address when it pops up in a small window above the MRX receiver or the AVM processor. And that way you can quickly log into the web user interface using your favorite browser, Google, you can use Firefox, you can use Safari like I do here on my Mac, so you can access the web user interface and go through the setup process. So at first, make sure you have the Quick Start Guide. Make sure that you go through the process of connecting it to the network, powering it on, and going through that first update to ensure that you have all the latest features unlocked with Anthem's firmware update process.
Awesome. So when the kind of loveliness of the Anthem product arrives, there is going to be a burning question, and I think it's really important for us during this webinar to cover this, and that is, let's face it, the delivery of this product. Now, the demand for this series has been extremely high, and what I want you as integrators to understand is that the guys sitting here today, Stephen, who's in the background as well, our main contact for Anthem and Paradigm in the UK, are working tirelessly to get the products available to you as quickly as possible. But as you can imagine, where the demand is so high, issues in the world with supply of components, the guys, when I say they're working around the clock, they really are. And the investment that's going into this product as well, not just from a perspective of understanding the cost of that component, but being able to source that component. The supply and demand situation of the world is, well, you can have it, but it's going to cost you more money. Now, this isn't being reflected in price increases. This is a case of Anthem and Paradigm investing heavily in the background to make sure that we're delivering these items to you as quickly as possible. So I just want to say a thank you from Pulse Cinema's perspective for the patience that you guys have shown with the delivery of this product. We are seeing products coming through, and we're working through the allocation list as quick as possible. And guys, I want to say thank you to you for everything that you're doing in the background to make sure that we're delivering this to integrators and to consumers as quickly as possible.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Trying our hardest.
Now,
as you said, working around the clock. That's not that's not an exaggeration. We're doing our best.
We know these products are critical to the success of your business, and we want to make sure that we do our best to get you as much information as possible in a timely manner. One of the things that we would always recommend is, as soon as you've sold an MRX series receiver or an AVM processor, is to get that placed on order with Pulse. That way you can line up the installation dates as closely as possible with as much advanced forewarning as you can allow us to have, so that we know what's needed for your installations out in the field.
Definitely. And Blake, I've got an extremely cool idea, which Stephen's probably going to cut this now and say, no, don't do that, but I've had an idea. Now, I loved my time when I went to the factory in Canada. I mean this, it was probably one of the most eye-opening experiences for me. I wish I had a bike, to be honest, because the place was so big that I was exhausted walking around it during the day. But what I think we should do is, for the UK 240 power batch of products, that you guys should do a golden ticket and put it into one box, and that one box entitles that integrator to an all expenses paid trip to Canada, when we can all fly and not be sort of crammed into tubes with masks on our faces, to go and experience this factory. Because there's been a couple of integrators that have holidayed in Canada, and we've organised it and they've come and seen you guys there. But I think for one lucky integrator, there should be a golden ticket, almost like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory, to go and experience what goes into such an incredible range of products and meet the people behind it. I think if we can organise something like that, I think that would be a really cool thing to do.
That's definitely a wonderful idea.
Stephen's like, shut up, Simon, shut up.
It's a very, very cool idea. It's we'll work on things to make it a much more enjoyable experience when you come to the factory right now. To kind of sprucing things up for the experience of getting people to come here. So we're very excited to have people back here. It's obviously been a big lull with COVID, so it's a very cool idea. I'm not the marketing guy who signs off on that style of promotion, but
you can pull some strings. You can pull some strings.
We can try our best to see if we can make that work. But it's a very interesting one. That'd be fun for sure.
Awesome. So guys, thank you so much for doing this today. George and I are going to go away and produce this and send this directly out to dealers. When you're watching that, by the way, guys, this is in the past, in the future. It's one of those kind of weird things, but I've really, really enjoyed filming this, and thank you, Blake and Tyler, for coming on and just giving us a real kind of... Tyler's your brother. Sorry, Kyle.
Don't worry, I've been called Tyler my entire life. Kyle is not a very common name, and I was called Tyler from grades, preschool all the way through my last year of high school.
I will now call you Tyler from now on. But no, Kyle, thank you so much. So So, by the way, guys, for you guys out there, Blake has a twin brother called Tyler, and doesn't work there now, but used to work at Paradigm. And I was telling the story actually just before we went live that when I flew out to Canada to see them, I'd met Blake in the UK beforehand. I was all excited to see a familiar face. I ran up to him in the corridor and pretty much gave him a usual kind of hug and a chat and a laugh, and it wasn't Blake. It was his brother, and I thought, oh my gosh, what? Blake was not that rude when I first met him. So
yeah, he was definitely taken by surprise. He let me know about it afterwards. Definitely came off as a bit cold and a bit jarring for you.
But Kyle, Blake, thank you so much, guys, and again, thank you for everything you're doing in the background to make sure that our customers are getting what is the home cinema choice. Best Buy. Amazing achievement. George, put a sound effect in. Thanks a lot, guys. Have an awesome day, and we'll catch you up soon. Cheers.
All right,
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us, Simon.
Cheers. Anytime.